So you wanna go to war with me? You're talking like you think you're royalty. You think that I'm afraid, but I don't break. I heard you question my stability. You think I'll fall just like a guillotine, but I am here to stay. Won't look away. The storm is coming, so you better start running. No, you can't control, feel it in my bones. I'm coming for the, coming for the.
All right, gang. Good afternoon. How's everybody doing? Tuesday, April 23rd. Welcome back. Let's get the old camera on here. We are going to be listening in about 90 minutes to the Tesla earnings call. And just in general, in the meantime, having a chat and talking about market news, Tesla news, while we're waiting to hear what management has to say, the analysts' questions, management's answers. There was a news article yesterday about Tesla cutting prices again. It is up here in market hours. I see a tweet that the earnings leaked, but I don't know that they're officially out yet. Let me check the SEC site. Cancel bubble, what's going on? Anya, good afternoon. How are you? We had a little run there from 143 to 157 for just a minute. How was y'all's day today? Anya, you get any trading in? Cancel bubble? We got some folks that are going to be joining us in Discord chat. You're welcome. If you're a member of the channel, join us up in the trading voice channel and ask your questions live. I'm seeing notes here on Twitter, earnings per share 45 cents versus expected 49 cents, down 47% year over year. Revenue of 21.3 billion versus expected 22.2. Sufyan, good afternoon to you. Anya says she's planting tomatoes and sowing seeds. I did a Home Depot trip at lunchtime today, Anya, because I had a lot of smaller plants that I had started from seed that needed to be upplanted. Now, I'm out of room in my garden, so I'm putting whatever I have left in 3-gallon containers. Mostly today was upplanting some peppers and some herbs. But everything's going good. If we could just get a little more sunshine here in Texas, it'd be nice. It's bright, but I wouldn't call it sunny. Tesla coming back down as people digest the news that was filtering out there. Can I get recycled barrels? That's a good question, Anya, but yes, I could get recycled barrels to plant in, but I need something that I guess I could put them up on those tables I built. I need something that the chickens can't reach. What I ended up having to do today, I bought one of those, if you've ever seen like at Home Depot, it's a 6-foot high bamboo fence that is in a roll and you unroll it. It's 16 feet long, 6 feet high. I put that all around those planting tables because the dang chickens, Anya, were getting up there and picking off all my baby vegetables. They can't get in the garden, but they were able to hop up on the planting table where I had all the seedlings. So they did a little bit of decimation, but I got it all straightened out now. Moving back up now, 151. I'm trying to get some official news here off of the website. Still nothing. We just got the what people are posting. Let me check CNBC. All right, we got something we can read here. Hey, look, it's our Austin dealership. I think that is right up the road from me. As we said a minute ago, 45 cents adjusted versus 51 cents expected. 45 cents adjusted. All right, keep that number in mind. It's the adjusted earnings. Revenue 21.3 versus 22.15 expected. Wall Street is projecting revenue will drop 5% from 23.3 billion, which would mark the first year-over-year drop in sales since 2020. Which is why, we knew their numbers, their delivery numbers since the beginning of this month. And that is why Tesla price has been coming down. Really, what I'm more interested in is what is published today, what is said on the phone call, and what the fallout, positive or negative, is on that. Because I would like to pick me up some more Tesla. I'd like to get back in and get a position on Tesla, but I don't want to overpay for it. So I don't have a position. I've been sold on the last run up, waiting for it to come back down. Layoffs, resignations, price cuts, all beautiful things for me, being in a position of cash waiting to buy in as it comes down. Earnings call is going to be at 5:30 Eastern, 4:30 Central, so in about 90 minutes. Steve says, hey, Tony, what is the adjusted 1 minute time frame that you have that seems to react quickly? I just have the standard 1 minute on Webull. You can even pick 1 second if you wanted. I don't like looking at it that quickly. It tends to make you make bad decisions. Let's, while we're hanging out here, let's check on our meme stocks. AMC closed at 339 today, holding at 340 after hours. GameStop, oh, that was, what was that gain today? 2 pennies on AMC. Opened at 337. Why does it say down 0.73%? Must have been from yesterday's close. So we closed in the red. GameStop closed in the green at 1017 and holding at 1018 after hours. PMI numbers obviously set the markets on fire today. Let's look at our indexes real quick. NASDAQ up 1.5%, and the SPY closed up 1.18%. They kept on running off my chart today. As I was sitting here this morning. Massive candles up in the morning. Interesting that people are bidding this up even though they didn't meet expectations. Maybe it wasn't as bad as they thought it was gonna be.
Look at Tesla run.
I know. Look at that. Rolf, you own some Tesla, right? Can y'all hear Rolf? Let me turn on desktop audio. All right, can y'all hear Rolf now? Rolf, say something, please. Rolf?
Word must be out.
All right, can y'all hear Rolf? Gorilla Gardener, what's up? Steve Tulfa, good afternoon. DM,
Refresh. Let's see
Ohio,
what we
good
got.
afternoon. Give me a thumbs up in the chat if you can hear our good friend Rolf. Rolf the Destroyer, we call him. All right, they can hear you, Rolf. So watch your mouth today. No cursing, please.
April 23rd.
Can you hear me, Rolf?
Yeah, the 8K is dropped. You must be reading it because they're not here in the chat.
All right. Can you hear me now, Rolf? I forgot I switched it to...
I hear you.
I switched it to push to talk. So I'm sitting here talking to you. I said, we got Rolf the Destroyer in the chat here. Watch your language.
8K is dropped.
All right. I've got the SEC website. Let me pull it up.
It must be good news because look at it rolling after hours. Up to 155.
Let's see what we got here.
I also see a proxy statement, so I'm gonna read that first.
I think that proxy is the definitive 14A from the preliminary that was published on the 17th, Rolf.
Okay.
Probably some update or else just the final version. Video, boy.
Yeah. Stockholder meeting.
Now, what do you think about Elon putting back on the ballot to approve that huge pay increase that the Delaware court told him no on?
Yeah, I'm not surprised, I guess. I hadn't really thought about it, but they moved their articles of incorporation to Texas because of that. So we'll see what happens the second time around. I imagine it will get approved just like it did last time.
This 8K is just I don't think this is. Oh yeah, all right. It is the update. This is the update you're looking for, Rolf. This is not the update you're looking for. Anya says, I doubt if Rolf ever curses. I have known him for some time now, Anya. I can't recall hearing him curse.
It's not often.
God damn it, Rolf. Why are you so good? You make me look bad. By the way, guys, market is closed, so I hope you don't mind. I've been working hard. Yesterday, I worked 6 a.m. till 8 p.m. Sunday, I worked all day. I'm going to have a beer right now, if you don't mind. On this channel, we are famous for giving out better financial news than 90% of the other channels, even with your host having an alcoholic beverage. And we are also widely regarded as the #2 global short squeeze specialists. Let's make this a little bit. Chris, good afternoon to you. All right, let's see what we got here. I want to just see summaries. Profitability, 1.2 billion GAAP operating income, 1.1 billion GAAP net income. And on my other screen, I want to pull up results from last year. Let's do that. There's only so many that I can have memorized, and I don't have Tesla's last quarter memorized. All right, operating income last quarter was 2.06 billion. Is that right? That seems awfully low. 2.06 down to 1.2. Net income 1.1 billion GAAP. Something's not right here. What am I looking at? Let me refresh my screen and make sure it's on quarterly. Total production 440,000. Total deliveries 422,000. Reductions from last quarter. Storage deployed. Megawatt hours 3.889. That's an increase from last quarter. Number of locations down 68 from last quarter. Supercharger stations. I wonder why those are down. That down about 200-300 units. I saw my first ever Cybertruck in the wild yesterday, I think. Just driving around here in Austin. It actually looked pretty nice. Nicer than I thought in real life. Preview of ride hailing in the Tesla app. Boy, I got a lot of thoughts about this. The whole Robo taxi. What are your thoughts on Robo taxi, Rolf?
I don't know. So in general, here's my thought on the self-driving. When all the vehicles are self-driving, it's going to be super efficient and super safe and the way to go. But as long as it's mixed, I'm not sure about it.
What about are you familiar with the Robo taxi, where they want to basically replace taxis and Ubers with Teslas, and then maybe even leverage customers, vehicles that aren't being used, where you can add your vehicle to the fleet?
Tony, it's a brave new world. I don't know what's going to happen with all that.
I don't know that I would want my vehicle subjected to the whims of the public riding in it.
Zero chance that I will sign up my vehicle for that.
You get some dipshit with a soup peddler and crackers, or a pepperoni pizza in the back of your car. Hey, do you mind if I smoke a joint? Oh, well, there's no one to ask, so I guess you don't mind. It's going to be awful. It's going to be awful for the general public. Now, if Tesla owns all the vehicles themselves, that's a completely different matter. That's on them. Hang on for me 1 second. We got Amazon at the door. Be right back. Tesla sitting at 152. Everlong Gaming says, anytime I hear it, I can't help but think of the total recall Robo taxi. The little guy. Howdy do. Guy cracked me up. And I think he ended up running into a wall or something at some point. All right, vehicle deliveries first. Slip in vehicle deliveries, at least on the chart they have here, since second quarter 2021. Operating cash flow looks like about 11 billion. Free cash flow down to somewhere around 1.5 billion. Give me some numbers on these charts. Revenues, all right. Now I have something to compare here. Net income 2.539 less. Why is this so freaking low? Something is wrong on the chart I have over here. On my left. All right, let me pull up a different website. I probably don't even need to pull up another website now that I think of it, because they have it right here. Net income gap is going to be coming in at 80 cents. Oh, I see what the problem is. Derp. Scroll to the right. This is the problem of trying to do this half screen like this. This is the one that we want to be looking at. Hello. Pour yourself another drink, Denaro. Net income. Here we go. 1.14. So yeah, this was right. That chart I had over here was correct. $0.37 gap. And then they said 45 adjusted. Balance sheet assets 109, liabilities 44. Current assets 26, including 3.8 in cash. No, total assets 50. 26 million in cash and cash equivalents, 3.8 in accounts receivable, 16 in inventory. Total current liabilities 29. We got 50 versus 29. We're in good shape there. Net cash provided by operating activities, 242 million. Net cash used in investing activities, 5 billion. That was on capital expenditures and purchases of investments. JT says, have anyone ever suggested you look like Bill Murray's hillbilly brother? Only my mom, my friend. My mom often called me Bill Murray's hillbilly brother. So thank you. Thank you for noticing. $3.43 on AMC after hours. GameStop holding steady at 10.16. Tesla moving up 154. The market really seems to like this. I can't wait to hear what Elon has to say. Rolf said, I didn't know Bill Murray had a brother. He does, Rolf, right here. All this time you've known me, Rolf, and you never told me that? What are my thoughts on the earnings? I would prefer for people that were holding Tesla, obviously, that the earnings increase every year, but we have seen from many of the EV companies that everybody's struggling. Interest rates are high. It was not a surprise that at some point Tesla was going to have a slowdown. And what I've been telling you guys for the last year is I was patiently waiting for that slowdown to have an opportunity to buy in on a cheaper price. So I don't care what the earnings is. I'd like to see them stumble a little bit temporarily so I can get in cheap. Long term, I think Tesla is going to be fine. I like Elon. I like me some Tesla. I just don't like overpaying for shit. Let's see how NVIDIA closed today while we're waiting for the call. Up 3.5%. Let's check some of our other blue chips. Tesla moving up in after hours. The earnings are out. We're waiting on the call, which is going to be in exactly 1 hour. Apple up about 0.5% today. AMD up 2.5%. Amazon 1.29. Boeing. Saw some Boeing news this morning saying they were going to slow down production. Down almost 1%. Citigroup down up 2.82. Costco up 1%. How about Hershey chocolate? Up almost 0.5 point. Meta's been getting spanked here the past couple days. And it got a little bounce with the indexes today. Meta's earnings are coming up in a week or so, I believe. I think I have. No, I don't know if I scheduled a live stream for Meta or not. I've got several other ones this week and next week scheduled. This is the strangest one where we got to wait 90 minutes for the earnings call. UPS had their earnings this morning. It was up 2.5% today, 2.4. Pepsi's volume and sales growth were better in most international markets than its North America markets. Pepsi earnings beat estimates. Let's check Pepsi real quick, see how they closed. That was a pre-earnings, pre-market. Down 2.9% for the day. Must have had a bad outlook the rest of the year. And General Motors reported this morning pre-market and raises 2024 guidance, and they steered through the day with almost a 2% increase. Sorry, almost a 4% increase, a little bit over 4%. Tesla after hours now sitting up 6%. Raise your hand if you were holding options, call options expiring Friday on Tesla. Rolf, do you have any calls?
Yeah, the kind that I sold.
What was your what were you selling at? Like 160?
162.50.
Oh, nicely played. You should be safe.
I feel like I will be safe.
Is it my birthday, Anya? No, it's just laundry day, Anya. It is my happy birthday shirt, but my birthday was a couple weeks ago. Gorilla Gardner says, will Tesla continue down and not return to previous highs for possibly years without a new product. That is really what I want to hear from Elon and the gang today, because Cybertrucks maybe not putting out the volume that we would want to see, the product mix a little bit stale maybe, and Elon wanting to focus on robo taxis. I don't know. I mean, it seems a little bit bearish to me, especially if they can't pull off the robo taxi thing. So I want to hear what he has to say, and then we'll just have to see how they execute against that. Have you been keeping up tight with the news, Rolf, on what's going on with Tesla?
I mean, as tight as anyone here, I guess. So average tight.
Average tight. We got a lot. It's a lot to keep up with on all these different tickers, isn't it?
It is. The data point I threw in the chat is Tesla has also cut plans to make their lower cost entry level vehicle.
Right. They threw that overboard in favor of putting all hands on deck on the robo taxi. The other thing that worries me for Tesla, and again, I'm not negative on Tesla. I want to buy some. I just want to get it at the right price. We're seeing increased competition from China. We got the threat of potentially at some point Chinese vehicles coming over here and siphoning sales away from Tesla. We have price reductions on everything. They are mentioning that here on their financial summary. Reduced vehicle average sales price due to pricing and mix. Increase in operating expenses driven by AI. Cost of Cybertruck production ramp. Decline in vehicle deliveries. But they do have lower cost per vehicle, including lower raw material cost. And higher FSD revenue recognition year over year, due to release of auto park feature in North America. Quarter end cash and cash equivalents and investments was $26.9 billion, a sequential decrease of $2.2 billion, being the result of negative free cash flow of $2.5 billion, driven by inventory increase of $2.7 billion and AI infrastructure capex of $1.0 billion. It hasn't jumped out at me yet. What has got people so excited to push the price up? Rolf, are you reading through this? Is anything jumping out at you?
I'm listening to you, and I haven't heard it yet either. I don't know what it is, unless I think maybe Musk will have some guidance on the call. That's the only thing that makes sense.
Maybe people were just expecting it to be worse than it is.
What was the EPS? Did you cover that already? I had to step away for a minute.
The gap EPS was adjusted was 45 versus expected 51. The gap EPS was, hang on, $37.
So they got a beat both ways pretty badly.
A miss.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's by beat. That's what I meant. Sorry. bad choice there. A miss. Pretty bad miss.
Yeah, I'm a little surprised that it jumped, unless everybody was like loaded for way worse than this. We got news on AMC and GameStop. Let's see. Doesn't look like 8K news. Nope. All right, drop your other tickers in the chat. What are y'all playing this week? What do you like? Let's look at DJT. That seems to be a popular one this week. DJT. I know Anya's in that one. Ba-dum-bump. Shh. Retail. Retail. Where are you at? There we go. Down 8% today. Ouch. I remember reading this morning that Donald Trump was going to get an additional allocation of shares. I think as long as it closed over $17 today, he was going to get millions or billions more shares. How much? $1.3 billion worth of additional shares he's eligible to receive if DJT stayed over a certain price for 20 days. Today was the last day, and it did stay over that price. And yeah, 36 million extra shares. Rolf, I wish we could just set up a money printer like that.
You know, he's kind of stuck though. How's he going to unload those?
Well,
and reap the benefits?
He's got a lockup period for 6 months, as I recall, and at some point he will sell them.
In 6 months, he's going to be behind on this one.
But if he gets elected, Rolf, this thing could go to the moon.
Well, it's a good point.
If he doesn't get elected, it could go to the tomb.
If he gets elected, I don't know if he has to divest himself of this. I'm not sure how all that works.
Yeah, I haven't read into it that much. I've just been watching the momentum and the volatility, and I don't have any position. Just so we're clear, was it yesterday or this morning? At some point, somebody was fussing at me saying I was pumping DJT. Guys, I have no position in this stock. I did cover it for a few seconds in a video. I think it was Sunday. And I said in that video that I don't own any, but I would be looking at it for momentum opportunities should one present itself. And I don't recommend this stock to you guys unless you're a very experienced momentum trader, because there are people that are going to get burned in this thing. But for some reason, you know, that never matters what I say. People create their own story of what I said in their ear and then go on Twitter with their angry little ranting tweets. And then I got to block them. Just get the story accurate and we can have a discussion. So much drama out there, you guys. What's going on? Everybody losing their damn minds. Option Trader says DJT can be share loaned and make shit tons of money. You don't have to sell shares to make money. Yeah, it does have high cost to borrow right now, right? So depending on your broker, if that is the case, you could make a boatload of money lending out the shares. Do they have an options chain yet? Well, they sure do. They got that too. Rolf,
I'm not playing it.
Might want to look into this for the wheel, Rolf.
No, this isn't a stock I want to own yet. It's not. To be clear, I know you've hinted at it. It's not. This isn't a political conversation. Just from an investment and trading perspective, I'm not touching this yet. It needs to settle in a little bit before I take a look at it.
Yeah, for the wheel, you don't want something that is this volatile because you don't know from day to day if what you're going to get stuck with.
Yeah, I would be concerned that I would get in and couldn't get out.
And no stock that we ever cover has political connotations. I only cover stocks to figure out, can I make money on it or not? That's it.
Absolutely. That's right. Amen to that.
Did I interrupt you? You were going to say?
No, I was going to say, maybe in a year, let this thing trade for a while and get settled into whatever business it's going to have, and then I might take a look at it. But until then, I'm not inclined to even look at it.
Option Trader says, this is the company not doing anything yet, but it is 100% political play. I'd take that even further. It's a 100% news cycle play. You could get whipsawed a lot between now and November just on news. The trials going on, the tweets going out, the judge handing out spankings, the media not wanting this ticker to succeed. It is some politics, but it's also a lot of news cycle. But I could, politics aside, if Trump looks like he's polling well against Biden as we get closer to November, I could see this being a strong stock.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I mean, looking at the options chain, the volatility is super high. There's a lot of money to be made here. It's just not. It's too early for me to get in it.
I call this a experienced trader / gambler / speculator ticker. You have a chance to make a lot of money. You have a chance to lose a lot, depending on how it all goes down. So I had a thought today, Rolf and audience, because of Devin Nunes and that letter he wrote to NASDAQ. And a lot of people are excited about that, especially if they're holding some bags on a meme stock. And there are a dozen of them that people are talking about this whole naked shorting counterfeit shares thing. And they're excited about Mr. Nunes writing that letter to NASDAQ. And I keep on seeing, Rolf, a lot of people saying, if only Adam Aaron would do this. If only Adam Aaron would write a letter. And I just had a thought today. How come? Okay, I mean, valid point you're raising there. If only Adam Aaron would, so he could be, called a fool and ridiculed on mainstream media. But I know you don't care about that. You just want him to write a letter. But the thought that I had was, how come no one is calling for Ryan Cohen to write a letter? Because theoretically, people that believe a certain thing, that AMC is being manipulated, I think those same people would think that GameStop is being manipulated. I don't know whether they are or not, but I don't see anybody calling out Ryan Cohen, calling him complicit with the hedge funds, calling him a criminal. In fact, I see no mention of Ryan Cohen at all, asking him to write a letter. I just find that curious, Rolf. I'm wondering what's driving the agenda for people being so vocal and mad at Adam Aaron and just not mentioning Ryan Cohen at all.
I can't imagine where that's coming from.
I can't imagine.
But also, I think if we were to look back into Adam Aaron tweets of the past, we will see that he has reached out to NYSE and the SEC.
And
although those
maybe
communications
FINRA.
were private, maybe FINRA, but we don't know the details of what exactly was said.
JT Kerrigan, I don't know if that question is for me or someone in the chat. He says, please evaluate on the actual business. I said in my video Sunday, I hate the financials of this company. Just so we're clear. If you're asking me, there is no business here yet. I do not recommend this stock on a fundamentals basis. I would only be looking at it if you're a momentum trader who knows what you're doing, can get in at a cheap price and write it up, or whatever price you get in that you're willing to have tight stop losses and get out if it starts coming down. This is not a stock for your average newbie. And there is no basis on which I can recommend it other than a momentum trade. And I'm not saying it's a momentum trade to enter right now. I'm just saying, look at the volatility. It's a momentum trader's dream. It's a dream, but you got to play it smart. The problem with these stocks is people buy them because of politics or short them because of politics. And then that's their only view to look at the stock, and they will hold that position long or short, even when it's going against them, and let their politics override good trading decisions. And that will get people in trouble. So I would be very careful. All right, let's go back to Tesla. Oh, I want to take a quick peek at Mullins Automotive. Wow, they actually closed up 7% today. Unbelievable. All right, I'm not going to waste a lot of time talking about that one. But there are some court updates that at some point I'd like to get a Noisy Corax or someone on to fill us in. I'm not keeping up with all that nonsense. But they're about to lose a $24 million lawsuit. And I don't know if they got $24 million to spend, honestly. I think Fisker earnings came out today. Also, their cash plummeted. Tesla now sitting up 9% at 158. Rolf, it's coming up on your 162.50.
That's how it goes sometimes.
Fisker news. Fisker adds a chief restructuring officer. That's not a good sign. Fuck. Oh, Lord.
That's a very specific specialty position.
Fisker's financial struggles lead to board reshuffle and debt forbearance. I also saw that Mr. Fisker, that's funny. Rolf, do you remember the band back in the day in the 80s, Mr.
Oh, yeah.
Mr. Fisker, I saw a headline that he put his house up for sale, which, I hate to see that happen to anybody, but it is what it is. If you want to see the future of Mullen Automotive, I think keeping a close eye on Fisker will give you an idea what's coming. JT says purely on valuation, it's a short. No doubt. No doubt. We're talking about DJT. I've seen, I will tell you, I've seen a lot of shorts get wrecked betting the wrong way on something that retail gets strongly behind. And there will be a lot of people that pile into DJT that have no idea about the financials. They're only buying it to support Trump. So if you're short, keep that in mind. That people that are buying are not going to care about the finances. It's just a matter of who's willing to bring more money to bear on any one given day. Cheers, my friend. Take it easy. I don't mind opposing questions here, guys, or any questions at all, as long as it is respectful. And JT was very respectful, allowing me to clarify my points. And I know not all of y'all watch all of my live streams or all of my videos to hear previously what I said about stocks. So always happy to clear the air. Let's see if we got any other 8K updates that we're waiting on today. Nothing on AMC. I know some of y'all are wondering if you're just here for Tesla. Why is he checking AMC? A money-losing $4 billion in debt company. Because we've been buying it. We've been buying it while it's cheap. Guys, if you, I know there is a lot of negative sentiment out there on AMC right now, and understandably, based on the financials and the expected Q1 earnings that we're going to be hearing about in a couple weeks. But if you had bought, I'm just going to say, again, if you follow a stock closely and you understand what's going on, AMC had a low recently in the last week or so of $2.38. If you had bought around that price, and many of us were, you are up right now in a week or so, 10 days, whatever, 50% on your investment. Granted, there are people that bought at $70 that are down 99%. I get that, but I can't help those people. I'm talking about the trading we're doing right now. And on top of the 50% gains, we've been selling covered calls and locking in extra income. So for anyone who's wondering why I'm watching it, I'm really waiting to see news on that the dilution is done and see if they get a little extra pop on that. And I will be taking some gains off the table. 158 up 9.5% on Tesla.
Man, I don't get it. What's running this up? I've scanned through the document. And I don't see this.
Why it's running?
Yeah.
Yeah. Rolf, while I'm chatting with folks here, maybe you can check on CNBC or Yahoo and see if there's something we're missing.
Yeah.
Wired Ape says, I overreacted, but my issue is letting the myth of naked short manipulation continue, which you know how it works. I was upset with you presenting the idea that Trump will fix a non-existent issue. Yeah, I'm sorry I had to block you, Wired. I'm not on Twitter for drama, as you know that. And I was very clear in my Sunday video. I said two things about Trump stock. I said, Mr. Nunes brought this issue of the naked shorts up, and maybe he'll be the first person in 3 years to get something done, because I'm not a big fan of Wes Christian. I'm not a big fan of any of these people that have been pumping shitty stocks because of the naked short. This management is going to hire an attorney and we're going to unearth all the naked shorts. I've never been a fan of that. And if you've watched my channel, you know that already. I've taken a lot of arrows in the back for not being a fan of Wes Christian or any of that bullshit. It's all pulling wool over retail's eyes. And so my second comment about DJT in my video on Sunday was, I said, or Devin Nunes will finally get something done, or this will be yet another company that is pulling the wool over retail's eyes to keep them on the hook until Donald can get his money. I don't know what it's going to be, but I'm not a fan of anybody that is running this naked short thing up the flagpole, because no one in 3 years has done anything, had any success. Every company that retail has been roped in on that, all of them have lost money. And it is infuriating to me that people fall for this time and time again. And now you got 20 channels out there saying, oh, Donald Trump, Devin Nunes, our savior. They're putting out 2 videos a day. I said very clearly, I will not be covering this topic because it infuriates me. And these people out there on YouTube are going to lose a lot more people money. Doesn't mean that I can't mention it in a video, but listen to the words I'm saying. Don't judge off of 3 letters in a video title.
I have Tesla news. I found the answer.
What you got?
I'll read 2 sentences. First sentence, we have updated our future vehicle lineup to accelerate the launch of new models ahead of our previously communicated start of production in the second half of 2025. Okay. So they're producing new models sooner. Second line is the most interesting. These new vehicles, including more affordable models. ... So their cheap car, their entry-level car is back on the table.
All right. Well, that is good news.
That is great news, and probably not great news for my call this week, but there we are.
Did you sell covered calls on your entire position?
Yes.
Woo!
Yes, I did. This we'll see. It's a long time till Friday.
Yeah.
But Tesla can move in a hurry, as we see right now. We could be looking, Tony, at my first loss of the year.
We'll pour one out
Nope,
for you,
sorry.
buddy.
It's my second loss of the year, but both in Tesla, if it happens.
Well, probably your first loss in a decade on a stock, Rolf.
Well, it's not, but it will be. It could be the second loss of this year. This will be a big one. This one will hurt.
Yeah, for all of you that are tuning into the Naked Short Talk, I can promise you on this channel there will not be one video a day talking how Donald J. Trump and Devin Nunes are going to save us by uncovering all the naked shorts. This is just clickbait. People who have nothing better to talk about. If they do uncover something, great, but I'm not going to be covering that as clickbait content. Doesn't mean that I won't cover DJT stock as a momentum trade. Please understand the difference. I made some of my best trades in recent history was DWAC. We made a fuck ton of money when that stock first came out. And I wouldn't mind doing it again on DJT. But I have no position right now, and I'm still not in it. I've been busy watching other stuff. I looked at it this morning, and it was going down. That's all I needed to see. Not interested at the moment. MotoGP says, not sure why anyone would be playing AMC. Tesla and NVIDIA moves daily and makes more money. Well, like I just said a few minutes ago, if you bought AMC at 230-ish, you're up 50%. And Tesla has been going down, so. We ran on AMC from 238-ish to 455, I think, was the high today. I mean, that's not a bad trade. You can hate the company, you can hate the financials, but you can't argue against that type of run up in 5 days. And for people who are willing to trade it, this is not a buy and hold channel. We had to change that up in light of dilution and the ape conversion and all that. I mean, you're going to tell me you're going to not play a stock that has what is the 45% opportunity in 5 days? Come on. I had call options that I bought on this day that made a fuck ton of money last week. And that's on top of the shares I have. And the shares I have, I'm selling covered calls at 350 and getting some fat premium on that. Come on. There's a lot of opportunities, even in shitty stocks. And the rest of this year gets better for AMC. Once we get past April, May and June get good. Q3 will be better. And we still have some unknowns, right? We got to get the Q1 bad news behind us. There's some debate if it's baked in or not, the bad news for Q1. And we got to hear about the debt restructuring, which could be this month or it could be later this year. But it's not as bad as people are portraying it, in my opinion. MotoGP says NVIDIA moves by 40 to 70 a day. Is it 45% though? Again, I'm not. We have this discussion often on the Discord when we're talking about trading stocks, and I'm trying to talk to people in terms of don't focus on a dollar amount because everybody has a different budget, a different portfolio size. Focus on what are you trying to make in terms of percentage gains? Whether you have $100, $1,000, $10,000 to play with on a daily or weekly basis, focus on percentage gains. I'd play a penny stock over NVIDIA if I was momentum trading it and I could make 100% in a day. And I'm not a fan of penny stocks. NVIDIA's up 8%. I mean, it's a safer play, of course. You want NVIDIAs and Teslas and GEs and Netflix and things like that in your main portfolio for long-term holds. If you're playing call options, maybe, and you think you can find the bottom on these, Tesla is a great stock for making a lot of money on call options or puts if you can guess the direction right. But everybody has different techniques and different skill set. We have a lot of people in the Discord that still aren't familiar with trading options. So they're just looking, Tony, I don't got a lot of money. I can't buy an $800 stock. What else you got? Well, how about AMC at 238? The dilution's just about done. It was ripe for an upturn. That was a fine trade. JT says, I like the cut of your jib, Bill Murray's brother. Do I really look like Bill Murray's brother? Speaking of Bill Murray, I saw Ghostbusters Frozen Empire yesterday. It was, it took me a long time to go see it. It wasn't on my top tier list of movies I wanted to go see. But I got all my trades in before lunch, and I had some free time, and I wanted to be back before the market closed. So I snuck in to an early viewing of that movie. It was all right. It was all right. I didn't see the movie prior to that, and a lot of the plot, you had to know the characters from the previous movie, so I was kind of like, not my favorite type of movie. The original Ghostbusters, 1984, big fan. It was nice to see the Dan Aykroyd and Bill Murray and the gang back, but I'm just not a big fan of remakes. They got to be damn good. But I will take me some. What's the one coming up? Deadpool and Wolverine. That one looks badass to the bone. Steve says, I want to go see Abigail. I really enjoyed Abigail. I went in with very low expectations. I saw Abigail and the Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare. I saw those two over the weekend. I went into Abigail with very low expectations. I'm very picky on my horror movies. And what I enjoyed about Abigail is they did not take themselves super seriously as a horror movie. The characters I found very amusing, very comical. The gang of thieves that kidnapped Abigail. We got 20 minutes, by the way, till the call. 20 minutes. The gang of thieves were all pretty hilarious. And Abigail, whatever that actress's name, I can't remember, the little girl, she was really, really good. There was a lot of CGI gore, and the mansion they were in. You know, I have a little bit of experience in film, so I pay attention to nerdy stuff. I pay attention to the set and the lighting, and you know, I need a good script. This one kind of hit the bill on all of those items, and so I found it very enjoyable. Not a scary movie, really, but a good vampire movie because it was something different and original. Rolf says Sting, the Spider version, is also on my list. They're not showing that damn movie. Sting and Nick Cage, the Arcadian, for whatever reason, they're skipping Austin. It's both limited release movies. Neither one is shown in my area. So, also, I did find out yesterday, by the way, this was news to me, and I probably just didn't read the fine print. But the donut holes, the donut holes that AMC came out with, I kept on checking our dine-in theater because I wanted to try them. And it's never on the menu. So I talked to the manager there yesterday. I was like, what's the deal? Why don't y'all have the damn donut holes? And he said, we're not going to have them here. We got a whole menu. We got salads, burgers, pizzas, chicken sandwiches, tater tots, milkshakes. We got the whole deal. We're not going to have donut holes. You got to go to the other two theaters in town that don't have the dine-in to get the donut holes. And sure enough, I checked online and yep, there they are in the menu. So I will go to one of those theaters on my next movie and give you guys my thoughts on the donut holes. Alicia Weir. Thank you, Steve. Yeah, that is her name. And by the way, speaking of movies and TV shows, and Rolf, if you're still here, hey, Gus, I see you up there in the chat too. Rolf, I think, and a couple of you guys recommended Black Sails, which is now out on Netflix, and we did start watching that, which I'm mildly enjoying. Rolf tells me it gets better.
It's a fine series, not for most kids.
Yeah. I was laughing, Rolf, because when my wife said, can you pick out a show? Because whenever I pick something, you say you don't like it. So I said, oh, well, they told me to check out Black Sail. So we pulled up the description and it said nudity, adult situations, violence. She's like, oh, I think I'm going to like this one. But here's what's funny, Rolf. As I was falling asleep last night, this is how critical I am as someone, you know, with previous experience in the film industry. When I'm watching the scenes on the boat, you know what I'm talking about? Like when the captain's steering the ship or they're fighting or there's a storm, the camera, or even if there's a guy like they're filming them from the outside of the boat, you know, getting splashed and he's up on the edge. The camera is always coming down from the low up towards the characters. So you can never see the horizon. You can never see any water. And all I can picture is a mock-up of a boat in a warehouse. They have these rocking things on it. And then a big green screen with the horizon in the background, the light sky. And now I can't get that image out of my head that they're not really on the water. And then when they show the boat on the water, you can obviously tell it's a model. But I've been on
Tony, you know too much about the sausage and how it's made.
Yeah, I've been in some pretty cool TV shows where it was like a futuristic space battle, for example, and we're storming with our guns and choo choo the lasers and all that, and it was in a warehouse and they had the rooms built outside. It's all just plywood. All you see is plywood sheeting, but inside it looks like you're inside of a starship. It's so fucking hilarious how these set designers can transform things and fool the eye of the viewer. But when you know how the sausage is made, sometimes you're too critical. Yeah, Gus says, remember the old Godzilla model sets? The man, Gus, in the 6-foot Godzilla suit stomping on the model buildings. I do remember that. 15 minutes to the Tesla call. Steve says, you got a good one. All right, here's part 2 of that story, Steve. Once the show started, Black Sails, and we're into about the second or third episode, and it starts with 2 of the lead female characters, the blonde and the French Bahamian chick with the dark skin. They're in bed naked together. Rolf, do you remember that scene?
I vaguely remember that.
And my wife, who was all excited about the show, she's like, which one do you think's prettier? She didn't say it like that. She's like, which one do you think's prettier? She said it all innocent. I was like, yeah, you're not going to trap me with that one. What would you guys, what would you answer if your wife asked you that? Which one of those naked chicks do you think is prettier? Gentlemen, do not answer the fucking question. Unless your wife is super, super cool. Mine's a redhead. And even though she asked that question with good intentions, I know what happens next. Gus says, honey, I like them both.
I will say, for the ladies, I'll say in fairness, all the guys on that show are super buff. They clearly spend a lot of time at the gym.
Yeah, the cook, that one guy, the main character, I call him the cook. That guy's very handsome, right, Rolf? The one that stole the map or whatever, that page from the book.
Oh yeah, well that's John Silver. That's Long John Silver.
Oh, is he?
Yes.
I haven't gotten that far yet.
Oh, sorry. Well, they don't call him that yet.
Okay.
So there you go.
Yeah, I haven't noticed any of the guys being buff, but I have, clearly they picked their lead characters for good facial features. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, apologies for the spoiler. Well, I guess in the episode that's coming up for you, you're going to see a lot of shirtless pirates. They clearly have been working out.
Well, the pirate life is a tough one. I would expect them to be buff.
No doubt.
Steve says, sounds like a bull trap. I think I ended up answering something like, it's too early for me to tell. I need to see more. In her defense, at least she's not jealous of me watching 2 women naked in bed together. But you know what comes next after which one is prettier, and you pick one? Then why? What do you like about her? Neither one is good looking to me. They're not redheads, babe.
Now, see, that's a good answer right there.
There are no redheads in the show that I've seen yet, Rolf. How can you not?
Let's see.
I mean, we're on an island. We've got winches and whores. Shouldn't you have your standard redhead?
Have you seen Anne Bonny yet? She's wearing a hat, so you might not know, but she's a redhead.
Is that the one that's like a spy? She's always sneaky and checking up on people?
Right. She's not a spy, but yes, that's the one.
Okay. Yeah, I haven't really noticed her hair color because she's always got that.
She wears that low hat.
And it's like this. You can only see one
it's
eye.
a real low hat, but it comes off a few times.
All right.
That's Clara Paget in real life. She's a model.
$10 minutes to go. Tesla is hanging out at 8% up on news. Rolf tells us that they are going to speed up the rollout of cheaper electric cars. That is the news that they needed to say today, Rolf, honestly.
I mean, it really is. That's 100% of what we're seeing right here.
Everything we were hearing leading up until today was the opposite of this, which is why the price has been decimated. Until today. Light up a cigar while we're waiting on this call. We haven't been doing enough live streams, Rolf, and I'm accumulating too many cigars because I have them on auto ship. So I get like, I don't know, 10 or 20 cigars a month.
Well, we need to do more informational.
More live streams.
That's right.
Where's my lighter? My kingdom for a lighter, Rolf. Well, shit. Stand by 1 second. I'll be right back. Steve says, break out the guitar and take requests. I just bought that guitar, Steve, so I'm in the early stages. You're probably going to have to wait a little while to get any tunes out of me. One of these days. Steve says, can you tell us more about your Discord? I hesitate to comment on it, Steve, because people just want to clip me talking about it and say that I'm grifting off of people. So I'll leave it to folks in the chat to fill you in. Or Rolf can talk about it.
Now I have to say something good.
Anya. Yuka Frito, what's up?
Who was asking that? Steve. So Steve, the Discord is, it's kind of like this video, except it moves at a much faster pace because it's live conversation, typically voice conversation, but there's a text area too. But it's trading. It's trading, all day, every day that the market's open at least, and sometimes on the weekends. Lots of due diligence, lots of just swapping of ideas, of conversation, of where people's heads are about this, that, and the other thing with regards to trading.
I will say this about our Discord. We cover a lot of different tickers. We cover a lot of different strategies. There is no right or wrong position. It's not a hopium or meme Discord, although there might be some memes that people post, but we're just analyzing how to end each week profitable, more profitable than we started on Monday. In a variety of different stocks and options plays. And for the most part, there's a good amount of seasoned traders contributing to the discussion and a lot of new people either soaking up information or asking questions. If that's what you're looking for, if you're looking for non-clickbait, non-hopium, people that are serious about making money every week, then it might be for you. Do I focus on options? We have a lot of options discussion. I wouldn't say we focus on it. About 50-50, right, Rolf? I mean, we're looking to build positions to sell options on, or we're selling cash secured puts to create a position.
Yeah, I agree with that, Tony. There's different folks have different comfort levels with the various kinds of trades you can make in the stock market.
Yeah.
So we have people that are option traders, like that's their wheelhouse, and we have people that are momentum traders, that's their wheelhouse. We have swing traders.
We have a lot of people that are just, still relatively new to trading, and they're just trying to soak up the options discussion. I don't ever recommend that a beginner just start trading options. That's how you get burned. So listen in, ask questions. We had a training on options in the Discord 2 weeks ago. We're going to do those from time to time for the new people. And we have people like in Europe that can't trade options. It's not something we push, but it's definitely something the experienced people are doing every week. And we talk about it. We talk about it openly so that people can learn, but we're not pushing it on new people. Let's get that straight, because if you don't know what you're doing, you're likely to make a mistake. All right, let me see if I can get in this call. I got it queued up here. Put it on mute because of the music. Brocape says, "What time frame you on?" What do you mean, Brocape? Explain. One minute warning. While this call is going on, I'm probably going to mute my mic so we can all listen in. Still music. Oh, Brooke Ape says the Tesla chart. I'm on the 5-minute right now. It kind of flattened out at 156. Cigar don't want to stay lit.
24 Q&A webcast.
All right,
My name is
here we
Martin
go.
Vieca, VP of Investor Relations, and I'm joined today by Elon Musk, Vaibhav Taneja, and a number of other executives. Our Q1 results were announced at about 3 p.m. Central Time in the update deck we published at the same link as this webcast. During this call, we will discuss our business outlook and make forward-looking statements. These comments are based on our predictions and expectations as of today. Actual events and results
Tony,
could
can you make
differ
it a hair
materially
louder?
due to a number of risks and uncertainties, including those mentioned in our most recent filings with the SEC. During the question and answer portion of today's call, please limit yourself to one question and one follow-up. Please use the raise hand button to join the question queue. But before we jump into Q&A, Elon has some opening remarks. Elon?
Thanks, Martin. So to recap, in Q1, we navigated several unforeseen challenges as well as the ramp of the updated Model 3 in Fremont. There was, as people have seen, the EV adoption rate globally is under pressure, and a lot of other auto manufacturers are pulling back on EVs and pursuing plug-in hybrids instead. We believe this is not the right strategy, and electric vehicles will ultimately dominate the market. Despite these challenges, the Tesla team did a great job executing in a tough environment, and energy storage deployments, the Megapack in particular, reached an all-time high in Q1, leading to record profitability for the energy business. And that looks likely to continue to increase in the quarters and years ahead. It will increase. We actually know that it will. Significantly faster than the car business, as we expected. We also continued to expand our AI training capacity in Q1, more than doubling our training compute sequentially. In terms of the new product roadmap, there's been a lot of talk about our upcoming vehicle line in the past several weeks. We've updated our future vehicle lineup to accelerate the launch of new models ahead of previously mentioned start of production in the second half of 2025. So we expect it to be more like the early 2025, if not late this year. These new vehicles, including more affordable models, will use aspects of the next generation platform, as well as aspects of our current platforms, and will be able to be produced on the same manufacturing lines as our current vehicle lineup. So it's not contingent on any new factory or massive new production line. It'll be made on our current production lines much more efficiently. And we think this should allow us to get to over 3 million vehicles of capacity when realized to the full extent. Regarding FSD version 12, which is the pure AI-based self-driving, people that if you haven't experienced this, I strongly urge you to try it out. It's profound, and the rate of improvement is rapid. So we've now turn that on for all cars with the cameras and inference computer and everything from hardware 3 on in North America. So it's been pushed out to, I think, around 1.8 million vehicles. And we're seeing about half of people use it so far. And that percentage is increasing with each passing week. So we now have over 300 billion miles that have been driven with FSD V12. Since the launch of full self-driving, supervised full self-driving, it's become very clear that the vision-based approach with end-to-end neural networks is the right solution for scalable autonomy. And it's really how humans drive. Our entire road network is designed for biological neural nets and eyes. So naturally, cameras and digital neural nets are the solution to our current road system. To make it more accessible, we've reduced the subscription price to $99 a month, so it's easy to try out. And as we've announced, we'll be showcasing our purpose-built Robo taxi or cyber cab in August. Regarding AI compute, over the past few months, we've been actively working on expanding Tesla's core AI infrastructure. For a while there, we were training constrained in our progress. We are, at this point, no longer training constrained, and so we're making rapid progress. We've installed and commissioned, meaning they're actually working, 35,000 H100 computers, or GPUs. GPU is the wrong word. They need a new word. I always feel like a wince when I say GPU, because it's not GPU, G stands for graphics, and it doesn't do graphics. But anyway, roughly 35,000 H100s are active, and we expect that to be probably 85,000 or thereabouts by the end of this year. In training, just for training. We are making sure that we're being as efficient as possible in our training. It's not just about the number of H100s, but how efficiently they're used. So, in conclusion, we're super excited about our autonomy roadmap. I think it should be obvious to anyone who's driving version 12 in a Tesla that it is only a matter of time before we exceed the reliability of humans, and not much time at that. And we're really headed for an electric vehicle, an autonomous future. And I'll go back to something I said several years ago, that in the future, gasoline cars that are not autonomous will be like riding a horse and using a flip phone. And that will become very obvious in hindsight. We continue to make the necessary investments that will drive growth and profits for Tesla in the future. And I wanted to thank the Tesla team for incredible execution during this period, and look forward to everything that we have planned ahead. Thanks.
Thank you very much. And Vaibhav has some comments as well.
Thanks. It's important to acknowledge what Elon said. From our auto business perspective, we did see a decline in revenues quarter over quarter, and those were primarily because of seasonality, uncertain macroeconomic environment, and the other reasons which Elon had mentioned earlier. Auto margins declined from 18.9% to 18.5%, excluding the impact of Cybertruck. The impact of pricing actions was largely offset by reductions in per unit costs and the recognition of revenue from auto park feature for certain vehicles in US that previously did not have that functionality. Additionally, while we did experience higher costs due to the ramp of Model 3 in Fremont and disruptions in Berlin, these costs were largely offset by cost reduction initiatives. In fact, if we exclude Cybertruck and Fremont Model 3 ramp costs, the revenue from auto margins improved slightly. Currently, normalized Model Y cost per vehicle in Austin and Berlin are already very close to that of Fremont. Our ability to reduce costs without sacrificing on quality was due to the amazing efforts of the team in executing Tesla's relentless pursuit of efficiency across the business. We've also witnessed that as other OEMs are pulling back on their investments in EV, there is increasing appetite for credits, and that means a steady stream of revenue for us. Obviously, seeing others pull back from EV is not the future we want. We would prefer it the whole industry went all in. On the demand front, we have undertaken a variety of initiatives, including lowering the price of both the purchase and subscription options for FSD, launching extremely attractive leasing specials for the Model 3 in the US for $299 a month, and offering attractive financing options in certain markets. We believe that our awareness activities paired with attractive financing will go a long way in expanding our reach and driving demand for our products. Our energy business continues to make meaningful progress with margins reaching a record of 24.6%. We expect the energy storage deployments for 2024 to grow at least 75% higher from 2023. And accordingly, this business will begin contributing significantly to our overall profitability. Note that there is a bit of lumpiness in our storage deployments due to a variety of factors that are outside of our control, so deployments may fluctuate quarter over quarter. On the operating expense front, we saw a sequential increase from our AI initiatives, continued investment in future projects, marketing, and other activities. We had negative free cash flow of $2.5 billion in the first quarter. The primary driver of this was an increase in inventory from a mismatch between builds and deliveries, as discussed before, and our elevated spend on CapEx across various initiatives, including AI compute. We expect the inventory build to reverse in the second quarter and free cash flow to return to positive again. As we prepare the company for the next phase of growth, we had to make the hard but necessary decision to reduce our headcount by over 10%. The savings generated are expected to be well in excess of $1 billion on an annual run rate basis. We are also getting hyper-focused on CapEx efficiency and utilizing our installed capacity in a more efficient manner. The savings from these initiatives, including our cost reductions, will help improve our overall profitability and ultimately enable us to increase the scale of our investments in AI. In conclusion, the future is extremely bright, and the journey to get there, while challenging, will be extremely rewarding. Once again, I would like to thank the whole Tesla team for delivering great results, and we can open it up to Q&A.
Thank you. Okay, let's start with investor Q&A. The first question is, what is the status of 4680? What is the current output? Ars?
Sure. 4680 production increased about 18-20% from Q4, reaching greater than 1K a week for Cybertruck, which is about 7 gigawatt hours per year, as we posted on X. We expect to stay ahead of the Cybertruck ramp with the cell production throughout Q2 as we ramp the 3rd of 4 lines in phase 1, while maintaining multiple weeks of cell inventory to make sure we're ahead of the ramp. Because we're ramping, COGS continues to drop rapidly week over week, driven by yield improvements throughout the lines and production volume increases. So our goal, and we expect to do this, is to beat supplier costs of nickel-based cells by the end of the year.
Thank you. The second question is on Optimus. So what is the current status of Optimus? Are they currently performing any factory tasks? When do you expect to start mass production?
We are able to do simple factory tasks, or at least I should say factory tasks in the lab. In terms of actually, we do think we will have Optimus in limited production in the factory, in the actual factory itself, doing useful tasks before the end of this year. And then I think we may be able to sell it externally by the end of next year. These are just guesses. As I've said before, I think Optimus will be more valuable than everything else combined. Because if you've got a sentient humanoid robot that is able to navigate reality and do tasks at request, there is no meaningful limit to the size of the economy. So that's what's going to happen. And I think Tesla is best positioned of any humanoid robot maker to be able to reach volume production with efficient inference on the robot itself. This perhaps is a point that is worth emphasizing. Tesla's AI inference efficiency is vastly better than any other company. No, there's no company even close to the inference efficiency of Tesla. We've had to do that because we were constrained by the inference hardware in the car. We didn't have a choice. But that will pay dividends in many ways.
Thank you. The third question is, what is Tesla's current assessment of the pathway towards regulatory approval for unsupervised FSD in the US? And how should we think about the appropriate safety threshold compared to human drivers?
Sure, I can start. There are a handful of states that already have adopted autonomous vehicle laws. These states are paving the way for operations, while the data for such operations guides a broader adoption of driverless vehicles. I think Ashok can talk a little bit about our safety methodology, but we expect that these states and the work ongoing, as well as the data that we're providing, will pave a way for a broad-based regulatory approval in the US at least, and then other countries as well.
Yeah. It's actually been pretty helpful that other autonomous car companies have been cutting a path through the regulatory jungle. That's actually quite helpful. And they have obviously been operating in San Francisco for a while. I think they got approval for City of LA. So these approvals are happening rapidly. I think if you've got at scale a statistically significant amount of data that shows conclusively that the autonomous car has, let's say, half the accident rate of a human-driven car, I think that's difficult to ignore, because at that point, stopping autonomy means killing people. So I actually do not think that there will be significant regulatory barriers, provided there is conclusive data that the autonomous car is safer than a human-driven car. And in my view, this will be much like elevators. Elevators used to be operated by a guy with a relay switch, but sometimes that guy would get tired or drunk or just make a mistake and shear somebody in half between floors. So now we just get in an elevator and press a button. We don't think about it. In fact, it's kind of weird if somebody's standing there with a relay switch. That'll be how cars work. You just summon a car using your phone. You get in. It takes you to a destination. You get out.
You don't even think about it.
You don't even think about it. Just like an elevator. It takes you to your floor. That's it. Don't think about how the elevator is working or anything like that. Now, something I should clarify is that Tesla will be operating the fleet. So you can think of like how Tesla, think of Tesla like, I don't know, some combination of Airbnb and Uber, meaning that, there'll be some number of cars that Tesla owns itself and operates in the fleet. There'll be some number of cars, and then there'll be a bunch of cars where they're owned by the end user, but that end user can add or subtract their car to the fleet whenever they want. And they can decide if they want to only let the car be used by friends and family, or only by 5-star users, or by anyone. At any time, they could have the car come back to them and be exclusively theirs, like an Airbnb. You could rent out your guest room or not anytime you want. As our fleet grows, we have 7 million cars, 9 million cars, eventually tens of millions of cars worldwide. With a constant feedback loop, every time something goes wrong, that gets added to the training data, and you get this training flywheel happening in the same way that Google search has the sort of flywheel. It's very difficult to compete with Google because people are constantly doing searches and clicking, and Google's getting that feedback loop. It's the same with Tesla, but at a scale that is maybe difficult to comprehend, but ultimately be tens of millions. I think there's also some potential here for an AWS element down the road, where if we've got very powerful inference, because we've got a hardware 3 in the cars, but now all cars are being made with hardware 4. Hardware 5 is pretty much designed and should be in cars hopefully towards the end of next year. And there's the potential to have to run when the car is not moving to actually run distributed inference. So kind of like AWS, but distributed inference. Like, it takes a lot of computers to train an AI model, but many orders of magnitude less compute to run it. So if you can imagine a future perhaps where there's a fleet of 100 million Teslas, and on average they've got like maybe a kilowatt of inference compute, that's 100 gigawatts of inference compute distributed all around the world. It's pretty hard to put together 100 gigawatts of AI compute. And even in an autonomous future where the car is perhaps used, instead of being used 10 hours a week, is used 50 hours a week, that still leaves over 100 hours a week where the car inference computer could be doing something else. And it seems like it would be a waste not to use it.
Asher, do you want to chime in on peer process and safety?
Yeah, we have like multiple tiers of validating the safety. For like in any given week, we train hundreds of neural networks that can produce different trajectories for how to drive the car. We replay them through the millions of clips that we have already collected from our users and our own QA. Those are like critical events, like someone jumping out in front, or like other critical events that we have gathered a database over many, many years. And we replay through all of them to make sure that we are net improving safety. And on top of it, we have simulation systems that also try to recreate this and test this in closed loop fashion. Once all of this is validated, we give it to our own QA drivers. We have hundreds of them in different cities, in San Francisco, Los Angeles, Austin, New York, a lot of different locations. They are also driving this and collecting real-world miles, and we have an estimate of what are the critical events, are they a net improvement compared to the previous week's builds. And once we have confidence that the build is a net improvement, then we start shipping to early users, like 2,000 employees initially, that they would like get the build. They would give feedback on like if it's an improvement, or are they noticing some new issues that we did not capture in our own QA process. And only after all of this is validated, then we go to external customers. And even when we go external, we have like live dashboards of monitoring every critical event that's happening in the fleet, sorted by the criticality of it. So we are having a constant pulse on the build's quality and the safety improvement along the way. And then any failures, like Elon alluded to, you get the data back, add it to the training, and that improves the model in the next cycle. So we have this like constant feedback loop of issues, fixes, evaluations, and then it rinse and repeat. And especially with the new V2 architecture, all of this is automatically improving without requiring much engineering interventions, in the sense that engineers don't have to be creative in like how they code the algorithms. It's mostly learning on its own based on data. So you see that, okay, we failed here, or like this is how a person shows, this is how you drive this intersection or something like that. We get the data back, we add it to the neural network, and it learns from that training data automatically, instead of some engineers saying that, oh, here you must rotate the steering wheel by this much or something like that. There's no hard if-else conditions. It's everything is neural network. It's very soft, it's probabilistic. So it will adapt its probability distribution based on the new data that it's getting.
Yeah, and we do have some insight into how good the things will be in, like, let's say 3 or 4 months, because we have advanced models that are far more capable than what is in the car, but have some issues with them that we need to fix. So there'll be a step change improvement in the capabilities of the car, but it'll have some quirks that are that need to be addressed in order to release it. As Ashok was saying, we have to be very careful in what we release to the fleet, or to customers in general. So like if we look at, say, 12.4 and 12.5, which are really could arguably even be version 13 and version 14, because it's pretty close to a total retrain of the neural nets in each case, or substantially different. So we have good insight into where the models, how well the car will perform in say 3 or 4 months.
Yeah. In terms of scaling laws, people in the AI community generally talk about model scaling laws, where they increase the model size a lot, and then they have corresponding gains in performance. But we have also figured out scaling laws in other axes. In addition to the model size scaling, we can also have data scaling. You can increase the amount of data you use to train the neural network, and that also gives similar gains. And you can also scale up by training compute. You can train it for much longer and get more GPUs or more Dojo nodes, and that also gives better performance. And you can also have architecture scaling, where you come up with better architectures that for the same amount of compute produce better results. So a combination of model size scaling, data scaling, training compute scaling, and the architecture scaling, we can basically if we continue scaling based on this ratio, we can sort of predict future performance. Obviously, it takes time to do the experiments, because it takes few weeks to train. It takes few weeks to collect tens of millions of video clips and process all of them. But you can estimate what's going to be the future progress based on the trends that we have seen in the past, and they've generally held true based on the past data.
Okay, thank you very much. Let's go to the next question, which is, can we get an official announcement of the timeline for the $25,000 vehicle?
I think Elon mentioned it in the opening remarks, but as you mentioned, we're updating our future vehicle lineup to accelerate the launch of our low-cost vehicles in a more CapEx efficient way. That's our mission, to get the most affordable cars to customers as fast as possible. These new vehicles we built on our existing lines and open capacity, and that's a major shift, to utilize all our capacity with marginal CapEx before we go spend high CapEx to do anything.
Yeah, we'll talk about this more on August 8th. But really the way to think of Tesla is almost entirely in terms of solving autonomy and being able to turn on that autonomy for a gigantic fleet. And I think it might be the biggest asset value appreciation in history when that day happens, when you can do unsupervised full self-driving.
5 million cars.
Yeah.
Oh, a little less.
Well,
Some of those have, yeah.
It'll be 7 million cars, in a year or so.
Yeah.
And then 10 million, and then, eventually we're talking about tens of millions of cars. Not eventually, it's like before the end of this, before the end of the decade, it's several tens of millions of cars, I think.
Thank you. The next question is, what is the progress of Cybertruck ramp?
I can take that one too. Cybertruck hit 1K a week just a couple weeks ago. This happened in the first 4 to 5 months since we SOP'd late last year. Of course, volume production is what matters. That's what drives costs, and so our costs are dropping. But the ramp still faces a lot of challenges with so many new technologies, some supplier limitations, etc., and we'll continue to ramp this year, just focusing on cost efficiency and quality.
Okay, thank you. The next question, have any of the legacy automakers contacted Tesla about possibly licensing FSD in the future?
We're in conversations with one major automaker regarding licensing FSD.
Thank you. The next question is about the Robotaxi unveil. Elon already talked about that, so we'll have to wait till August. The following question is about the next generation vehicle. We already talked about that. So let's go to the Semi. What is the timeline for scaling Semi? I think
sure. So we're finalizing the engineering of the Semi to enable a super cost-effective, high-volume production with our learnings from our fleet and our pilot fleet and Pepsi's fleet, which we're expanding this year marginally. In parallel, as we showed in the shareholders deck, we have started construction on the factory in Reno. Our first vehicles are planned for late 2025 with external customers starting in 2026.
Okay, couple more questions. So our favorite, can we make FSD transfer permanent until FSD is fully delivered with level 5 autonomy?
No.
Okay, next question. What is gating the production ramp at Lathrop? Where do you see the megapack run rate at the end of the year? Mike?
Yes.
Yeah, Lathrop is ramping as planned. We have our second GA line allowing us to increase our exit rate from 20 gigawatt hours per year to, at the start of this year, to 40 gigawatt hours per year by the end of the year. That line is commissioned. There's really nothing limiting the ramp. So it's given the longer sales cycles for these large projects, we typically have order visibility 12 to 24 months prior to ship date. So we're able to plan the build plan several quarters in advance. So this allows us to ramp the factory to align with the business and order growth. Lastly, we'd like to thank our customers globally for their trust in Tesla as a partner for these incredible projects.
Okay, thank you very much. Let's go to analyst questions. The first question comes from Tony Sacconaghi from Bernstein. Tony, please go ahead and unmute.
Thank you for taking the question. I was just wondering if you could elaborate a little bit more on kind of the new vehicles that you talked about today. Are these like tweaks on existing models, given that they're going to be running on the same lines, or are these like new models, and how should we think about them, in the context of like the Model 3 Highland update? What will these models be like relative to that? And given the quick time frame, Model 3 Highland has required a lot of work and a lot of retooling. Maybe you can help put that all in context. Thank you. And I have a follow-up, please.
I think we've said all we will on that front. So what's your follow-up?
It's a more personal one for you, Elon, which is that you're leading many important companies right now. Maybe you can just talk about where your heart is at in terms of your interests, and do you expect to lessen your involvement with Tesla at any point over the next 3 years?
Well, Tesla constitutes the majority of my work time, and I work pretty much every day of the week. It's rare for me to take a Sunday afternoon off. So I'm going to make sure Tesla is very prosperous. And it is, I think it is prosperous, and it will be very much so in the future.
Okay, thank you. Let's go to Adam Jonas from Morgan Stanley. Adam, please go ahead and unmute.
Okay, great. Hey, Elon. So you and your team on volume expect a 2024 growth rate notably lower than that achieved in 2023. But what's your team's degree of confidence on growth above 0%? Or in other words, does that statement leave room for potentially lower sales year on year?
No, I think we'll have higher sales this year than last year.
Okay. My follow-up, Elon, on future product. If you had nailed execution, assuming that you nail execution on your next gen cheaper vehicles, more aggressive gigacastings, I don't want to say one piece, but getting closer to one piece, structural pack, unboxed, 300-mile range, $25,000 price point. Putting aside Robotaxi, those features unique to you, how long would it take your best Chinese competitors to copy a cheaper and better vehicle that you could offer a couple of years from now? How long would it take your best Chinese competitors to copy that? Thanks.
I mean, I don't know what our competitors could do, except we've done relatively better than they have. If you look at the drop in our competitors in China's sales versus our drop in sales, our drop was less than theirs. So we're doing well. But I think Kathy Wood said it best. Like, really, we should be thought of as an AI or robotics company. If you value Tesla as just like an auto company, you just have to fundamentally. It's just the wrong framework, and it will come to. If you ask the wrong question, then the right answer is impossible. So. I mean, if somebody doesn't believe Tesla's going to solve autonomy, I think they should not be an investor in the company. Like that is, but we will, and we are. And then you have a car that goes from 10 hours of use a week, like an hour and a half a day, to probably 50 but it costs the same.
I think that's the key thing to remember, right? Especially if you look at FSD supervised. If you didn't believe in autonomy, they should give you a preview that this is coming. It's actually getting better day by day.
Yeah, if you've not tried the FSD 12.3, and like I said, 12.4 is going to be significantly better, and 12.5 even better than that, and we have visibility into those things, then you really don't understand what's going on. It's not possible.
Yeah, and that's why we can't just look at just as a car company, because a car company would just have a car. But here we have more than a car company because the cars can be autonomous. And like I said, it's happening.
Yeah, this is all in addition to Tesla. The overall AI community is just like improving rapidly. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we're putting the actual auto in automobile. So, so sort of a lot of it, we like, well, sort of like, tell us about future horse carriages you're making. I'm like, well, actually, it doesn't need a horse. That's the whole point. And that's really the whole point.
Okay, thank you. The next question comes from Alex Potter from Piper Sandler. Alex, please go ahead and unmute.
Great, thanks. So couldn't agree more. The thesis hinges completely on AI, the future of AI, full self-driving, neural net training, all of these things. In that context, Elon, you've spoken about your desire to obtain 25% voting control of the company. And I understand completely why that would be. So I'm not necessarily asking about that. I'm asking if you've come up with any mechanism by which you can ensure that you'll obtain that level of voting control, because if not, then the core part of the thesis could potentially be at risk. So any additional commentary you might have on that topic?
Well, I think no matter what, Tesla, even if I got kidnapped by aliens tomorrow, Tesla will solve autonomy, maybe a little slower, but it would solve autonomy for vehicles at least. I don't know if it would win on with respect to Optimus or with respect to future products, but it would. But there's enough momentum for Tesla to solve autonomy, even if I disappeared for vehicles. Now, there's a whole range of things we can do in the future beyond that. I'd be more reticent with respect to Optimus. If we have a super sentient humanoid robot that can follow you indoors and that you can't escape, we're talking Terminator level risk, then I'd be uncomfortable with, if there's not some meaningful level of influence over how that is deployed. If there's shareholders have an opportunity to ratify or re-ratify the sort of competition, I guess I can't say that. Whatever, but that is a fact. They have an opportunity.
Okay. Very good.
And we'll see if the company generates a lot of positive cash flow, we could obviously buy back shares.
All right, that's actually all very helpful context. Thank you. Maybe one final question, then I'll pass it on. OpEx reductions, thank you for quantifying the impact there. I'd be interested also in potentially more qualitative discussion of what the implications are for these headcount reductions. What are the types of activities that you're presumably sacrificing as a result of parting ways with these folks? Thanks very much.
So, like we said, we've done these headcount reductions across the board. And, as companies grow over time, there are certain redundancies, there's some duplication of efforts which happens in certain areas. So you need to go back and look at where all these pockets are, get rid of it. So we're basically going through that exercise wherein we're like, hey, how do we set this company right for the next phase of growth? And the way to think about it is, any tree which grows, it needs pruning. This is the pruning exercise which we went through. And at the end of it, we'll be much stronger and much more resilient to deal with the future, because the future is really bright. Like I said in my opening remarks, we just have to get through this period and get there.
Yeah, we're not giving up anything that it's significant that I'm aware of. So we've had a long period of prosperity from 2019 to now, and so if a company sort of organizationally is 5% wrong per year, that accumulates to 25-30% of inefficiency. We've made some corrections along the way, but it is time to reorganize the company for the next phase of growth. And you really need to reorganize it, just like a human. When we start off as one cell and become a zygote and blastocyst, and you start growing arms and legs, and briefly you have a tail. And so.
But you shed the tail.
You shed the tail, hopefully, and then you're a baby, and you basically you have to be different. The organism, a company is kind of like a creature growing, and if you don't reorganize it for different phases of growth, it will fail. You can't have the same organizational structure if you're 10 cells versus 100 versus a million versus a billion versus a trillion. Where humans are like around 35 trillion cells. Doesn't feel like it. Feels like feel like one person, but you're basically a walking cell colony of roughly 35 trillion, depending on your body mass, and about 3 times that number in bacteria. So anyway, you've got to reorganize the company for a new phase of growth, or it will fail to achieve that growth.
Thank you. Let's go to Mark Delaney from Goldman Sachs. Mark, please go ahead and unmute.
Yes, good afternoon. Thanks very much for taking the question. The company had previously characterized potential FSD licensing discussions as in the early phase, and some OEMs had not really been believing in it. Can you elaborate on how much the licensing business opportunity you mentioned today has progressed? And is there anything Tesla needs to achieve with the technology in terms of product milestones in order to be successful at reaching a licensing agreement, in your view?
Well, I think it just needs to be obvious that our approach is the right approach. And I think it is. I think we're now with 12.3, if you just have the car drive you around, it is obvious that our solution, with a relatively low cost inference computer and standard cameras, can achieve self-driving. No LiDARs, no radars, no ultrasonics, nothing. Just
no heavy integration work for vehicle manufacturers.
Yeah, it's so it really just be a case of having them use the same cameras and inference computer and licensing our software. And but it's once it becomes obvious that if you don't have this in a car, nobody wants your car. Yeah, it's like it's a smart car. I still remember back when Nokia was king of the hill. Yeah,
cell phone.
Yeah, crushing. And then I saw them come out with a smartphone that was basically a brick with limited functionality. And then the iPhone and Android. But people still did not understand that all the phones are going to be that way. There's not going to be any flip phones. There'll be a niche product.
Or home phones.
Yeah, not even exactly. When was the last time you saw a home phone? Is it like an anachronism?
I have no idea.
Yeah.
In a hotel. Sometimes in a hotel.
Yeah, the hotels have them. Yeah. So the people don't understand all cars will need to be smart cars, or you will not sell this. The car will not. Nobody will buy it. Once that becomes obvious, I think licensing becomes not optional.
Becomes a method of survival.
Yeah, so it's license it, or nobody will buy your car.
I mean, one other thing which I'll add is, in the conversations which we've had with some of these OEMs, I just want to also point out that they take a lot of time in their product life cycle.
Yeah.
They're talking about years before they will put it in their product. We might have a licensing deal earlier than that, but it takes a while. So this is where the big difference between us and them is, right?
Yeah, I mean, really, a deal signed now would result in it being in a car in probably 3 years.
That would be early.
Yeah, that's like lightning, basically. So
that's being an eager OEM.
Yeah. So, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if we do sign a deal. I think a good chance we do sign a deal this year. Maybe more than one. But yeah, it would be probably 3 years before it's integrated with a car, even though all you need is cameras and our inference computer. So it's like not a massive design change.
Yeah, and again, just to clarify, it's not the work which we have to do, it's the work which they have to do, which will take the time.
Right, Mark, do you have a follow-up?
Yeah, very helpful. Thank you. My follow-up was to better understand Tesla's approach to pricing going forward. Previously, the company had said that the price reductions were driving incremental demand. With how affordable the cars have become, especially for vehicles that have access to IRA credits and some of the leasing offers that Tesla has in place, do you still see meaningful incremental price reductions as making sense from here for the existing products? And can the company meaningfully lower prices from here and also stay free cash flow positive on an annual basis with the current product set? Thanks.
Yeah, I think we can be free cash flow positive meaningfully. Yeah.
I think Vaibhav said it in his opening remarks, like our cost down efforts, we basically were offsetting the price cuts.
That's what I was going to say.
Goal. Like we're trying to give it back to the customers.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, like for any given company, if you sell a great product at a great price, if you have a great product at a great price, the sales will be excellent. That's true of any arena. So over time, we do need to keep making sure that that it's a great product at a great price, and moreover, that price is accessible to people. So it's not, you have to solve both the value for money and the fundamental affordability question. The fundamental affordability question is sometimes overlooked. If somebody's earning several $100,000 a year, they don't think of a car from a fundamental affordability standpoint. But from the vast majority of people are living paycheck to paycheck. So it actually makes a difference if the cost per month for lease or financing is $10 one way or the other. So it is important to keep improving the affordability and to keep sort of like making the price
more accessible.
Yeah, exactly. Make the price more accessible, the value for money better, and to keep improving that over time.
But also to make kick-ass cars that people want to buy.
Yeah, it's got to be a great product at a great price, and the standards for what constitutes a great product at a great price keep increasing. So there's like you can't just be static. You have to keep making the car better, improving the price a bit, improving the cost of production. And that's what we're doing.
Yeah, and in fact, like I said in my opening remarks also, like the updated Model 3 is a fantastic car. I don't think people fully even understand the amount of engineering effort which has gone, and Lars and team have actually put out videos explaining how much the car is different when it looks and feels different. Not only it looks and feels different, we've added so much value to it, but you can lease it for like as low as $299 a month.
Yeah. Without gas.
Yeah.
All right. The next question comes from George from Canaccord. George, please go and unmute.
Hi. Thank you for taking my question. First, could you please help us understand maybe some of the timing of launching FSD in additional geographies, including maybe clarifying your recent comment about China? Thank you.
I mean, like new markets, yeah. There are a bunch of markets where we don't currently sell cars that we should be selling cars in. We'll see some acceleration of that.
And FSD in new markets?
Yeah. So the thing about the end-to-end neural net based autonomy is that just like a human, it actually works pretty well without modification in almost any market. So we plan on, with the approval of the regulators, releasing it as a supervised autonomy system in any market where we can get regulatory approval for that, which we think includes China. So yeah, it's just like a human, you can go rent a car in a foreign country and you can drive pretty well. Obviously, if you live in that country, you'll drive better, and so we'll make the car drive better in these other countries with country-specific training. But it can drive quite well almost everywhere.
Yeah, the basics of driving are basically the same everywhere. Like, car is a car, traffic is a traffic light, road is the road.
Yeah, it understands that it shouldn't hit things no matter where it is.
Exactly. There are some road rules that you need to follow. In China, you shouldn't cross over a solid line to do a lane change. US is a recommendation, I think. China, you get fined heavily if you do that. We have to do some adaptations, but it's mostly smaller adaptations, not like an entire change of stack or something like that.
Yeah.
Hey, George, do you have a follow-up?
Yep. So my follow-up has to do with the first quarter deliveries, and I'm curious as to whether or not you feel that supply constraints that you mentioned throughout the release impacted the results, and maybe can you help us quantify that, and is that why you have some confidence in unit growth in 2024?
Yeah, I think we did cover this a little bit in the opening remarks too. Q1 had a lot of different things which were happening. Seasonality was a big one. Continued pressure, pressure from the macroeconomic environment. We had attacks at our factory. We had Red Sea attacks. We're ramping Model 3. We're ramping Cybertruck. All these things are happening. I mean, it almost feels like a culmination of all those activities in a constrained period. And that gives us that confidence that, hey, we don't expect these things to recur.
Yeah, we think Q2 will be a lot better.
Yeah.
It's just one thing after another. Arson attacks are crazy.
Yeah, exactly. It's just, if you've got cars that are sitting on ships, they obviously cannot be delivered to people. And if you've got excess demand for Model 3 or Model Y in one market, but you don't have it there, it's an extremely complex logistics situation. So and I'd say also we did overcomplicate the sales process, which we've just in the past week or so have greatly simplified. So it became far too complex to buy a Tesla, whereas it should just be you can buy the car in under a minute. So we're getting back to the you can buy a Tesla in under a minute interface from what was quite complex.
Okay, thank you. Let's go to Colin Rush from Oppenheimer. Colin, go ahead and unmute, please.
Thanks so much, guys. Given the pursuit of Tesla really as a leader in AI for the physical world, and your comments around distributed inference, can you talk about what that approach is unlocking beyond what's happening in the vehicle right now?
So, do you want to say something?
Yeah, you mentioned like the car, even when it's a full robotaxi, that's probably going to be used around 50 hours a week.
That's my guess, like a third of the hours of the week.
Yeah, it could be more or less, but then there's certainly going to be some hours left for charging and cleaning and maintenance in that world. It can do a lot of other workloads. Even right now, we are seeing, for example, these LLM companies have this like batch workloads where they send a bunch of documents, and those are run through pretty large neural networks and take a lot of compute to chunk through those workloads. And now that we have already paid for this compute in these cars, it might be wise to use them and not let them be idle, be like buying a lot of expensive machinery and letting them be idle. Like, we don't want that. We want to use the compute as much as possible and close to like basically 100% of the time to make effective use of it.
That's why I think it's analogous to Amazon Web Services, where people didn't expect that AWS would be the most valuable part of Amazon when it started out as a bookstore. So that was on nobody's radar. But they found that they had excess compute because the compute needs would spike to extreme levels for brief periods of the year, and then they had idle compute for the rest of the year. So then what should they do with all that excess compute for the rest of the year? That's kind of
monetize it.
Yeah, monetize it. So it seems like kind of a no-brainer to say, okay, if we've got millions and then tens of millions of vehicles out there where the computers are idle most of the time, that we might as well have them do something useful.
Yeah, exactly.
And then, I mean, if you get like to the 100 million vehicle level, which I think we will at some point get to, then, and you've got a kilowatt of usable compute, and maybe you're on hardware 6 or 7 by that time, then you really, I think you'd have on the order of 100 gigawatts of usable compute, which might be more than anyone, more than any company, probably more than any company.
Yeah, probably, because it takes a lot of intelligence to drive the car anyway, and when it's not driving the car, you just put this intelligence to other uses, just solving scientific problems,
just like a human,
or answering dumb questions for someone else.
We've already learned a lot of deploying workloads to these compute nodes.
And unlike laptops and our cell phones, it is totally under Tesla's control. So it's easier to distribute the workload across different nodes, as opposed to asking users for permission on their own cell phones would be very tedious.
Well, you just drain the battery on them.
Yeah, exactly. The battery is also limited.
So like technically, I suppose like Apple would have the most amount of distributed compute, but you can't use it because you can't get you can't just run the phone at full power and drain the battery.
Yep.
So whereas for the car, even if you're a kilowatt level inference computer, which is crazy power compared to a phone, if you've got a 50 or 60 kilowatt hour pack, it's still not a big deal to run.
If you're plugged in,
whether you're plugged in or not, you could be plugged in or not plugged in. You could run for 10 hours and use 10 kilowatt hours of your kilowatt of compute
forever.
Yeah.
Already got a built-in liquid cooled thermal management.
Yeah, it's exactly
expense for data centers, so it's already there in the car.
Exactly. So it's distributed power generation. It's just distributed access to power and distributed cooling, and it's already paid for.
Yeah, I mean that distributed power and cooling, people underestimate that costs a lot of money.
Really big deal.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, and the capex is shared by the entire world.
Yes,
sort of. Everyone owns a small chunk, and they get a small profit out of it, maybe.
Yeah.
Thanks so much, guys. And just my follow-up is a little bit more mundane. Looking at the 4680 ramp, can you talk about how close you are to target yields and when you might start to accelerate incremental capacity expansions on that technology?
We're making good progress on that, but I don't think it's super important for at least the near term. As Lars said, we think it'll be exceed the competitiveness of suppliers by the end of this year, and then we'll continue to improve it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's important to note also that like the ramp right now is relevant to the Cybertruck ramp.
Yeah,
and so like we're not going to just randomly build 4680s unless we have a place to put them, and so we're going to make sure we're prudent about that. But we also have a lot of investments with all our cell suppliers and vendors. They're great partners, and they done great development work with us. And a lot of the advancements in technology and chemistry we found in 4680, they're also putting into their cells.
Yeah, I mean, a big part of the 4680, Tesla doing internal cells was a hedge against what would happen with our suppliers. Because for a while there, it was very difficult because every big car maker put in massive battery orders. And so the price per kilowatt hour of lithium-ion batteries went to crazy numbers, crazy levels.
Bonkers.
Yeah, just bonkers. So, like, okay, we've got to have some hedge here to deal with, cost per kilowatt hours numbers that were double what we anticipated. If we have an internal cell production, then we have that hedge against demand shocks, with too much demand. That's really the way to think about it. It's not like we want to take on a whole bunch of problems just for the hell of it. We did this help program in order to address the crazy increase in cost per kilowatt hour from our suppliers due to gigantic orders placed by every car maker on Earth. So,
okay, thank you. And the last question comes from Ben Kalo from Baird. Ben, go ahead and unmute. And you're still muted.
Well, I once again would just like to strongly recommend that anyone who is, I guess, thinking about the Tesla stock should really drive FSD 12.3. You can't, it is impossible to understand the company if you do not do this.
All right, so since Ben is not unmuting, let's try Shreyas Patel from Wolf Research. Final question.
Oh, hey, thanks so much. Just, Elon, during the Investor Day last year, you mentioned that auto COGS per unit for the next-gen vehicle would decline by 50% versus the current 3 and Y. I think that was implying something around $20,000 of COGS. About a third of that was coming from the unboxed manufacturing process. But I'm curious if you see an opportunity that some of the other drivers around powertrain cost reduction or material cost savings, would those be largely transferable to some of the new products that you're now talking about introducing?
Yeah, sure. I mean, in short, yes. I mean, the unboxed manufacturing method is certainly great and revolutionary, but with it comes some risk because, it's new production lines and not. But all the subsystems we developed, whether it was powertrains, drive units, battery improvements in manufacturing and automation, thermal systems, seating, integration of interior components, and reduction of LV controllers, all that's transferable, and that's what we're doing. Trying to get it into our products as fast as possible. And so that engineering work, we're not trying to just throw it away and put it, in a coffin. We're going to take it and utilize it to the best advantage of the cars we make and the future cars we make.
Okay, great. And then just on that topic of 4680 cells, I know you mentioned it. You really thought of it more as like a hedge against rising battery costs from other OEMs, but it seems, even today, it seems like you would have a cost advantage against some of those other automakers. And I'm wondering, given the rationalizing of your vehicle manufacturing plans that you're talking about now, if there's an opportunity to maybe, convert the 4680 cells and maybe sell those to other automakers and really generate an additional revenue stream. I'm just curious if you have any thoughts about that.
Right. What seems to be happening is that unless I'm missing something, the orders for batteries from other automakers have declined dramatically. So we're seeing much more competitive prices for cells from our suppliers, dramatically more competitive than in the past. It is clear that a lot of our suppliers have excess capacity.
Yeah. In addition to what Elon said, this is Karan, by the way. In addition to what Elon said about 4680s, what 4680 did for us from a supply chain perspective was help us understand the supply chain that's upstream of our cell suppliers. So a lot of the deals that we had struck for 4680, we can also supply those materials to our partners, help reducing the overall cost back to Tesla. So we're basically inserting ourselves in the upstream supply chain by doing that. So that's also been beneficial in reducing the overall pricing in addition to the excess capacity that these suppliers have.
Yeah, no, I mean, this is going to wax and wane, obviously. So, there's going to be a boom and bust in battery cell production, where production exceeds supply. And then supply exceeds production and back and forth, kind of like, I don't know, DRAM or something. So it's like what is true today will not be true in the future. There's going to be somewhat of a boom and bust cycle here. And then there are additional complications by, with government incentives, like the Inflation Reduction Act, the IRA, which I always found like a funny name for a
comical name.
Yeah, is it like the Irish Republican Army, the Internet Research Agency from Russia,
Independent Retirement Account?
Yeah, exactly. Roth IRA. It's like forced Spider-Man situation, which IRA wins. So, but it does complicate the incentive structure, so that there is perhaps there's stronger demand for cells that are produced in the U.S. than outside the U.S. But then, how long does the IRA last? I don't know.
Which is why it's important that we have both in cells and vendor cells to hedge against all of this.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. That's all the time we have today. But at the same time, I would like to make a short announcement. And I wanted to let the investment community know that about a month ago, I met up with Elon and Vaibhav and announced that I'll be moving on from the world of investor relations. I'll be hanging around for another couple of months or so feel free to reach out anytime. But after this 7-year sprint, I'm going to be taking a break and spending some good quality time with my family. And I wanted to say that these 7 years have been the greatest privilege of my professional life. I'll never forget the memories from, I started literally at the beginning of production hell and just watching the company from the inside to see what it's become today. And I'm especially super thankful to the people in this room and dozens of people outside of this room that I worked for over the years. I think the team strength and teamwork at Tesla is unlike anything else I've seen in my career. Elon, thank you very much for this opportunity that I got back in 2017. Thank you for seeking investor feedback and regularly and debating it with me.
Yeah, well, I mean, the reason I reached out to you was because I thought your analysis of Tesla was the best that I'd seen.
Thank you.
So, yeah, thank you for helping Tesla get to where it is today over 7 years. It's been a pleasure working with you.
Thank you so much. And yeah, thank you for all the thousands of shareholders that we've met over the years and walked around factories and loved all the interactions, even the tough ones. And yeah, looking forward to the call in the next 3 months, but I'll be on the other side listening in. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
All right, so that was actually a pretty good call, and investors seem to like it too. The stock almost up 10% in after hours. We still got an hour to go. That went far better than I was expecting to hear today. If I was being honest, I was expecting the stock to tank after hours, but they pulled an audible and gave us some news on the low-cost vehicle, and I don't think anybody really said anything out of turn in this call. No weird rambling or things like we've seen in some previous calls. So, hey Pam, how you doing? Pam Cakes, good to see you. I would not be surprised to see Tesla continue this upward trend for a few days. Where it goes from here, I don't know. Am I ready to buy in at 160? I don't know. I'm not the type of person just to jump in. I need to see what the momentum looks like, and I don't know. I'd like to see a few more quarters. This one was obviously down. If the next one's down too, that's going to weigh on the company. Can they turn this thing around? What's going to happen with interest rates? There's a lot to fucking think about. But I might take a few nibbles. I might take a few. I got to think about it. I'm going to have to sleep on this and read through the entire 10Q for sure. And sometimes we find little tidbits or gotchas or things that are glossed over on calls. Always recommend to you guys, if you have the time, to read through every company that you're invested in or thinking about investing in. Read through the 10Q, learn to read the financial statements, the balance sheet, the income statement, cash flow, read all the footnotes, and the risk factors in the very beginning of a 10Q or a 10K. If you're not doing that on a regular basis, you're really just setting yourself up to be surprised, like happens to so many people in so many tickers. Oh, they never told us that X, Y, and Z was going to happen. They always tell you that it's going to happen. The clues of what is going to happen are always there in the filing. So if you want to become a next level investor, it does take some work. And what you get out of this whole thing we call investing is going to be a function of what amount of time you're willing to put in. And I don't mean time reading tweets or reading someone's DD on Reddit. Read the 10Qs, read the 10Ks. Learn to understand what everything means on there. I saw Markets with May put a suggestion out, I think this morning. She said, I think everyone, at least one time from a company they're invested in should request a hard copy of an annual report. Back when I started investing, all we got was 40, 50 page paper copies. And I would read those. It's always just been a habit that I've had of reading everything, as boring as that fucking sounds. That's how you not get caught by surprise about any little warnings they put in there. The balance sheet, risk of dilution, risk of preferred shares being offered. All of those things are always disclosed well in advance of them happening. So anyways, I will be reading through the Tesla 10Q later tonight or tomorrow morning. If you're interested in hearing IMAX call, I have a live stream scheduled for that. That's going to be on the 25th, Thursday morning, early. So join us for that. We'll get a little preview of what's going to come up for AMC. I have the Cinemark call scheduled also. And we're still waiting for AMC to schedule their call. As far as I know, I still haven't seen any update that we have a date yet for the AMC call, but it'll be on or before May 10th. Clark Barwick, what's up, amigo? He says, I watched a couple videos on electric vehicles and the sales are just crashing. Yeah, all of them are struggling with that. All of them are struggling with that. And on top of that, we got China coming in hot and heavy. So that's why I'm a little bit hesitant to say I'm going to jump in on Tesla tomorrow morning. There's a lot to think about. When everybody else is pulling back, are they pulling back because Tesla's so dominant? I mean, Tesla's clearly in the catbird seat here because they're really the only one that's doing this profitably. But we got a lot to think about. Fortunately for Tesla, they have so much more than just a car. They've got the self-driving, they've got the power wall or whatever you call it. They've got Optimus coming. Just, I would say don't count Tesla out, but make sure you really understand what you're buying and not just chasing a ticker because it's popular. Rolf says the lower cost entry level model will alleviate some concerns about overall cost to own. Yeah, there were a couple things that stood out to me in this call when they were talking about reducing costs. It is really amazing, the cost cuts that they've done on their products. They said that the reason they were able to do them was from cost cutting of parts and production. That is an amazing feat, actually. Some of y'all know this, some of y'all don't. That I come from a corporate background, not in automobile, but in high-tech manufacturing. And there's You have a constant pressure in product development. Whether you're in product development, whether you're in procurement, whether you're in manufacturing, the entire organization is constantly under this pressure to wring out costs, to cut costs, because the competition is always breathing down your neck. So hat tip to Tesla to continue to cut cost. And then I was reliving when they were talking about the job cuts, the layoffs. In my 15 years at one company, started at the bottom. We started as a no-name company and ended up, one of the top companies in the country, in the entire stock market. We went through several periods of tough times like Tesla is having right now. I went through in 15 years at least 3 years where we had major layoffs and concerns about the company's viability. And so I think it's good for Tesla to cut the fat, cut out, middle management usually gets hit. Sometimes some VPs get hit. Your bottom 10% performers get hit. And sometimes programs get hit. And it's always traumatic when you work for the company, I can tell you. It's always freaking traumatic. And it's the gossip. But then, it's the gossip everybody's talking about. Who got let go? What happened? Is the company going to survive? But then you double down your efforts. And if you believe in the company that you're working for, you fucking make it work. And I think that Tesla probably has a lot of people like that. So I think they'll come out okay. The worst decision to make is not to cut people, because payroll is a big expense. They're going to save, he said, $1 billion by cutting these people. So that's huge. And if things are slowing down, you need to do that, unfortunately. Companies get fat and they get sloppy when they're making profits. Where I will start worrying for a company like Tesla is when they're cutting unnecessarily. But we're not. I mean, this is still a growth company, so I'm not worried about that. They're doing the right thing for the situation they're in. So yeah, it makes headlines, but I think that they're doing the right thing. Zach says Optimus going to have to do a lot of work to fill in for the employees that just got canned. Yeah, you'd be surprised. I mean, if you're only cutting 10%, generally, in my experience, anyways, they're cutting out middle layers of management that weren't really needed, VPs that nobody liked, or the bottom 10% of workers. I, as a manager at the company I work for, we always had to have a bottom 10% list. You never knew when you were going to have to fire them, but you always had your bottom 10% list. And guess what? When those people get fired, you don't really miss them because they weren't that strong of a contributor anyways. When you're working at a company, I'm not talking about like at a government agency where everybody's doing the bare minimum. When you're working at a company like Tesla or the one that I worked at, it's all A-type personalities, people busting their ass to be the best, to grow, to increase the stock price. And yeah, you don't miss those bottom 10%. You just don't. So that being said, we will keep an eye on Tesla. I'm going to read through the 10Q for the folks in the Discord. I'm gonna take a break here for a minute. I've been working since 6 o'clock this morning here. It's 6 o'clock at night now. So I'm gonna grab some food and check in with the wife. She's on her way home. I see she's at the grocery store right now. And maybe I'll be on later tonight with a live stream. I'm going to chat with some folks and see if we got anything worthwhile to talk about. Otherwise, I will see you guys in the morning. And for those that are looking for the next live stream, like I said, for sure, there will be one Thursday morning to listen in to the IMAX call. I highly recommend if you're an AMC investor to tune in with me to the IMAX and the Cinemark call so we can get an idea of what's coming next. Pam says Tesla is very popular here in California. Pam, it's popular here in my town too. And I just saw my very first Tesla Cybertruck in the wild, driving not too far from my neighborhood. So I see a lot of Rivian here. I see some Polestar. We have a dealership for Polestar and Rivian here. We've got obviously a Tesla dealership and a factory here. I have not really seen any Lucid or Fisker. So but Tesla in general, very, very popular here. And I look forward to hearing more about robo-taxis. And if I had to guess, knowing how these things go, and my sideline experience and one of my other businesses related to all this, there's not going to be that many people that end up making their car available to robo-taxi. I think that people might think that sounds like a great idea. They're going to be in for a rude awakening. And what will probably happen, if I had to guess right now, what will happen, there'll be entrepreneurs that go buy 5, 10, 20 Teslas and just rent them out to Tesla, make them all available as robo-taxis. You'll get these new virtual taxi fleet operators. That's what I think will happen. I don't think that Elon has his vision of everybody flipping a switch and saying, yeah, use my Tesla for the day while I'm working. That might work for a few days or weeks or months. And then people are going to be like, oh, hell no. Hell, did you see how my car came back and Tesla won't reimburse me for this damage? No, this is not going to work out like they think. That's just my guess. And I'm not saying that as just an innocent bystander. I have some experience in that industry as well. I've done a lot of things. Over my last 30, 40 years. So we'll see. We'll see if I'm right on that or not. But I think robo-taxi will be fine. It might not play out exactly like people are thinking. Robo-taxi itself, if he gets it up and running, I think it will be fine. And as an investor, do we care if 1 million people are turning on their cars for robo-taxi or 10,000 operators with a fleet of 20 or 100 cars? No, we don't care as an investor. We don't care. Just get it up and running, Elon. And good luck with the autonomy. Because that's the other challenge. Yeah, Anya, they're going to be like, I had to have the interior cleaned again and they won't reimburse me. Thank you, guys. We will see you tomorrow in the Discord. If there is a live stream later tonight, it'll be kind of a pop-up. I need at least an hour or two break to get some personal stuff done and get some food. So, that being said, let me play the outro here and we will see you on the next one.
So you wanna go to war with me? You're talking like you think you're royalty. You think that I'm afraid, but I don't break. I heard you question my stability. You think I'll fall just like a guillotine.